And we're live. Cool. Well, hello. My name is Jordan Kurtz. This is my YouTube channel. It's Jordan Kurtz Hypnosis. And today, during our live stream, we're going to be testing a couple things. This is the first one, so I'll probably be checking to make sure audio works, all those things. But we're going to be breaking down Alex Hormozi. Alex he has a lot of very interesting mindsets when it comes to his own inner game. And what I found here today to break down is a video of him, that kind of a compilation video of all of his most popular mindsets. So before I go on, I'm going to quick unmute myself. Okay, that does work. Great. I'm checking all the audio to make sure this works. But so it's been a lot of work in the process to make this happen. But happy to be here. I'm gonna pull up Juan's comment. Yes, thanks for joining. And yeah, so let's just jump right into it. I've got the Alex Hormozi video here, and this is an hour long. I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. I have about 8 timestamps that I'd like to cover, and I will pause it as I feel as he brings up an important point. And I'll probably play it for a few seconds and make sure that I can hear it. Okay, there you go. Right off the bat, I'm going to make sure I can hear it. Nope, I can't hear that. Oh. Helps to unmute your desktop audio. Let's try this again.
From other people that exist or don't exist in their lives. A lot of people just...
Stand by. Oh. Helps to unmute your desktop audio. Let's try this again.
From other people that exist or don't exist in their lives. A lot of people just...
There we go. There, okay. Now we're cooking. Okay, I'm going to restart this bad boy. Oh.
Yeah, people only root for those who don't need to be rooted for. From other people that exist or don't exist in their lives. A lot of people are afraid of not getting validated, or they're afraid of judgment that they perceive from other people that exist.
Okay, I was running both audio tracks at the same time, so now let's get started. I'm gonna play this back. I can't listen to 2 things at once.
Yeah, people only root for those who don't need to be rooted for. People are afraid of not getting validated, or they're afraid of judgment that they perceive from other people that exist or don't exist in their lives. A lot of people just underestimate the amount of effort it takes to go from good to great. I think the things that were withheld from us are the things that usually we seek the most. I think how many really successful guys have daddy issues, and so for whatever reason they have.
Okay, so let's talk about those things. So Alex Hormozi likes to talk about success. He likes to talk about the most successful people. He points out that they feel like they've had something that was withheld from them. So they're always chasing this feeling of lack, like they didn't have enough. And so if they're always chasing this feeling of validation, it's pretty much what actually made him successful. But he never felt like he had his father's approval, and so he had to continuously and always chase that void inside yourself. But I'm a hypnotist. I approach this through the lens of the subconscious mind. So, that's, you can run towards something or you can run away from something. And so I find it's much more powerful to align your subconscious beliefs with your actual goals and desires. Because if you're always trying to fill that void, if you're always trying to fill that empty void of validation, you'll never fill it. It's kind of like a black hole. So, yeah, and let's keep going. Oh, nice. My keys work.
Have this second voice that criticizes everything they do, that in reality isn't even there. But
And that second voice is the subconscious mind. So I like when I've been trying to think of content to do for a while. I'm actually on Ryan's show that I've been on, and the other show I'm on. A lot of people have different names for the subconscious mind. Alex just said it's this second voice, and that voice is basically that is the subconscious mind. If you have an internal belief that says I'm not good enough, and or I need to be validated, or what I want, I can't get what I want, you will, like, that voice will keep, every time you want to do something, that second voice is always going to speak to you.
I would say 99% of the things that I've learned through doing. Like, competitors don't put you out of business, but you obsessing over competitors does. My future self would trade all the money he had to be poor and 20 again. Made me really reanalyze how I saw living life in the moment.
I promise you, every single person who wants to do something
I'll play it for
with their life and
I'll play it for a little longer, but I think I'm going to skip ahead here.
has done something with their life, has gone through the exact chapter that you're going through. And it's the lonely chapter. It's the chapter where you don't fit in with your own friends. You're opening the door and being like, you could go back.
Okay. Yeah, let's move forward a little bit. Let's see. Go to 931.
Well, I didn't get his respect, so I'm going to have to compensate with my circumstances, with my environment, so that everyone respects me.
So I'm gonna replay that because he said that pretty quick, and it's actually kind of helpful to have the text on screen here.
I was here and we worked out together and we ate together and we did that for like 2 years. And I was like, maybe I'll sit on different meetings than you.
Yeah.
But like seeing the level of like commitment and loyalty that you get from that, and I don't know. So I went on a little bit if you don't want to.
Well, I didn't get his respect, so I'm going to have to compensate with my
I didn't get his respect, so I'm going to have to compensate with my circumstances,
with my environment, so that everyone respects me.
so that everyone respects you. And I believe this clip cuts it a little short, but what he's referring to is his father. He didn't feel like he got his father's respect, and he had to compensate by creating an environment, basically, so that people would respect you. And again, what he's referring to is this lack of respect is a maladaptive, limiting subconscious belief. And if you tend to, he tends to manifest that around him. And so, Alex gets really, again, and this will be a theme throughout the rest of the video, but Alex gets really, really close to addressing like the subconscious programs without actually saying those words. And so part of the point of my channel and my mission here is to basically, I want subconscious programs to be entered into the common jargon of basically these types of highly successful people, because they're aware of it. They see it. They see examples, not getting enough respect or not getting enough validation when they were little, and so they have to overcompensate. They're getting very close to the root causes, which are these subconscious programs, but they're not aware of the solution, which is hypnosis, to use hypnosis to change those subconscious programs.
And some people do that through fear, some people do that through violence, some people do that through success. It really just depends what vehicle you choose. But I feel like the deep need is the same. Then we gain more leverage over our time, which we then know we will compound into money. Yes. Because I think if you can master the time, you master them. I am the person who has done these things, and I will do things that will get me closer to the things that I want to achieve. And so a lot of my definition of self has always been based on evidence. And so I think it was harder for me in the beginning because I didn't have evidence to support what I hoped to be true about myself, which at the time wasn't.
Okay, that's interesting. So it was harder at the beginning because I didn't have evidence to support I'm going to go back. What was that?
Evidence to support the things that I want to achieve. And so a lot of my definition of self has always been based on evidence. And so I think it was harder
My definition of self has been based on evidence.
for me in the beginning because I didn't have evidence to support what I hoped to be true about myself.
I didn't have evidence to support what I hoped to be true about myself. So that's actually interesting. Let me go solo for this one. So, oh boy, this is actually the reason I wanted to pick this video. I listened to the whole thing, and there were some good pieces, but this was actually one of the most important. So, what he's basically just described is trying to use external accomplishments and to fill an internal void. So he's looking for he's using that word evidence, which what is evidence is by definition is external, to create a belief about himself. And I think what he's really getting at, because I've seen other videos of him, what he's describing is this tendency for, he never felt like he was good enough. He never felt like he was worthy. He felt like, nothing he could do would ever be good enough. And, he basically tried to fill that whole void with, his business and his success. And so he's like, I'm not the person I'm on. What he didn't say, and what he's kind of getting at, is he didn't say, I'm not worthy of that. I'm not worthy of that success until I have evidence to show that I am. And that is a huge black hole. You have to first believe that you're worthy of success in order to achieve success. And he's trying to go the other direction. He's trying to use the evidence to prove that he's worthy of that success. And it works the other direction. The problem for people like Alex Hormozi is that they're so successful with that mindset that it's probably unlikely that he's actually going to change that. And I want to be really clear. This is not a takedown video of Alex or anything like that. I mean, clearly everything that he's doing is working. It's that I would argue he'd be much more efficient if he didn't feel like he was constantly trying to fill that void. Because the void has to be filled in your subconscious. You have to change the subconscious beliefs so that you believe you're worthy. If you don't change that, no amount of external validation is going to change that. And I'll have to pull this up, but, Layla Hormozi I saw a Layla Hormozi post on Twitter and his wife, Layla Hormozi. He said that you don't ever feel better, you just get better at feeling bad. And I think that's true for both of them. I think they both have negative, subconscious beliefs about themselves and about not feeling good enough, and they've used their business as a way of, filling that void. Now, I think what they've done in business is amazing, and I'd like to, do the same with mine. But I noticed that Alex consistently talks about it's this pattern of, I need evidence to show that I'm good enough. I need evidence. Those are external things, and really it has to all be internal. So I'm going to keep going on the playlist. Welcome to the show, John. It's good to see you in here. We're going to keep going.
Which at the time wasn't. And so
what did you hope to be true? That you could figure it out, or was it always a result?
If I can just decrease the action threshold for people to begin and be okay with the fact that they're going to suck, and it is okay to suck. You should expect to suck. And it would be unreasonable for you to be good if you haven't done it before. And so it's like, are you asking the universe to be unreasonable for you by expecting to be good?
I don't know how I feel about this, you should expect to suck. I think I'd use a little bit nicer language around it. I think what I might say is, rather than expecting to suck, it's just you temper your expectations. You don't expect to be great the first time you do anything. Because you're and he's sort of mixing two different things. He's mixing the reality that, you're not going to be good at anything the first time you try it. Which is absolutely true. But he's also he's trying to, because what he said before this, remember, is you have to use evidence to show that you're worthy. And that, I kind of see what he's getting at. He's trying to get you to temper your expectations, but I don't know if I'd use that language, you should expect to suck, because it's like, I find it's much more helpful to reframe these things, to be positive, such as, I am always learning, I am always growing, I am always improving, I get better and better every day, quote Ryan Fowler, whatever he says. I think it's, I get better and better every day in every way, something like that. I don't know. Don't sue me, Ryan. But, yeah.
On your first try.
And so I just asked him a couple questions. I was like, who here before pledging started was like, I want to be a part of this house? The guys were like, me. Okay. I'm like, okay, got it. Who here thought it was going to be easy? Who here thought it would be hard? They raised their hands. I'm like, guys, this is what hard feels like. And all of a sudden there's just like this big exhale in the room. They're like, expectations get reset. This is normal. You wanted this thing. You expected it to be hard. Reality now matches conditions. Sorry, expectations now match conditions. This is what hard feels like. And then all of a sudden it's like they got permission.
Okay, cool. I'm going to skip ahead a few more minutes. Let's see, what are we on? We're on 10:58. We're skipping ahead like 17 seconds more. I'll just keep playing.
To feel shitty. And now what? Because I think a lot of effort gets put into trying to deny reality on it and say, like, what if they're right? Now, by getting permission to feel shitty, they stop feeling it. And the next one is like, what if we confront it and say, like, what if they're right? Now what? Because
Okay, I need to go backwards a little bit. All right, give me a second. I realized I should have just let him talk the whole time. Let's do this.
And so I just asked him a couple questions. I was like, who here before pledging started was like, I want to be a part of this house? The guys were like, me. Okay. I'm like, okay, got it. Who here thought it was going to be easy? Who here thought it would be hard? They raised their hands. I'm like, guys, this is what hard feels like. And all of a sudden there's just like this big exhale in the room. They're like, expectations get reset. This is normal. You wanted this thing. You expected it to be hard. Reality now matches conditions. Sorry, expectations now match conditions. This is what hard feels like. And then all of a sudden it's like they got permission to feel shitty. And by getting permission to feel shitty, they stop feeling it. And the next one is like, what if we confront it and say, like, what if they're right? Now what? Because I think a lot of effort gets put into trying to deny reality, right? Like there's this clip that I shared from Tom Bilyeu, and he was talking about how he gets made fun of for his ears being big, right? And
I think whoever made this video cut in a clip, because he says, what if they're right? And so the context of him saying, well, what if they're right is, basically it's like if people are insulting you, or if people are trying to tear you down, if people are criticizing, he's going to go into an example about Tom Bilyeu and how Tom basically, people are criticizing his ears. And so that's where this is leading.
And I think it's a really good clip because his point that he was making, because it's such a visual, easy example for people to understand. He's like, is that it's true. I do have big ears. And so that's like if they're like, you have no right to be making content. Are they right? Okay. And
yeah,
I'm still going to do it anyways. Because the thing is, like, one of the things that I had earlier on in my career was like, I didn't think I was a really good person. Like I was like, I'm not a good person.
Yeah,
like some people are like, yeah, I just had that. Right. And I had a history.
Okay, this is the part, well, there's a lot of good parts in this to analyze, but so his frame, here, I'm going to go full screen for this. Let's do this. So his frame in this is like, what if they're right? So I remember the context is Alex likes to use these cognitive tools to compensate for his subconscious mind. He's very good at it. And what he's about to describe is him thinking of himself not being a good person, but then still doing things anyway. This is very fascinating.
whatever. And one of the things that gave me a lot of respite or relief from that kind of thought process was like, comma, that's okay, because I can still do.
Okay, I'm going to go backwards a little bit.
Earlier on in my career was like, I didn't think I was a really good person. Like,
Okay, I didn't think I was a really good person. That's the first important part.
I was like, I'm not a good person.
Yeah, me
like some
too.
people are like, yeah, I just
Me
had
too.
that, right? And I had a history, whatever. And one of the things that gave me a lot of respite or relief from that kind of thought process was like, comma, that's okay, because I can still do the things that create success and not deserve it and still get it. And that actually felt very powerful for me, because it was like, I don't have to deserve to success. I can
Oh boy, that. Okay, I'm gonna keep going before I
still just do the stuff that gets it. It's like you don't have to deserve the girl, but you can still do the things that get her. And do you deserve her when you have her? I don't know. Who knows? I hate the word deserve to begin with, right?
Yes.
But like that concept, because also I could segue into like gratitude.
Okay. All right. Oh boy. Oops. That one. Okay, so this one is fascinating. So he's like, so the frame is, I'm not a good he says to himself, I'm not a good person, which most people, that creates some sort of anxiety and stress around, thinking you're not a good person. And then he says, after that, he says, comma, and that's okay. And that's fascinating, because he's like, if you just do the things anyway, he's like, you can still have success even if you don't think you're a good person who thinks they're worthy of success, which is fascinating. Because and so here and I had to think, because I've watched this before, before the show, and I thought this was fascinating. I had to think about this a little bit. I was like, what cause? Because there's, because I often say that there's, you have to believe you're worthy of success, that you deserve success in order to get it. And so how do I square that circle? So I'll break down a little bit of my thinking here. So the first part is that you can not think you're I think, so we talk about, this is where we start to get into different subconscious programs. It's almost like layers. Your subconscious, there's, X amount of subconscious programs, probably probably immeasurable. Let's just say there's a lot. And you can have one that says, I'm not good enough in general. And then you can also say, I'm not good enough to get what I want. So, but those are two separate things. And so if you believe you're not really that good of a person, but you still believe you're good enough to get what you want, then you can still pursue success and still think you're a poor person. The subconscious mind allows you to separate those two. Those are not necessarily the same. I'm going to have some water here. But so the other theory I had on this is that, so Alex, as we know, has a lot of external pressure, or had a lot of external pressure from his dad to be good enough. And so the interesting thing is, how strong was that? You're kind of balancing beliefs, because I think if his dad was saying you're not good enough to be successful, you're not good enough to be successful, and Alex has that internal belief, we also have to kind of measure how strong that is. Because he's saying, well, you can just feel shitty and still do it anyway, right? But oftentimes what happens, or what I see in a lot of my clients, is that that's the reason they procrastinate doing anything, is because they don't feel like they're worthy of that thing. And so he says, well, you can just feel bad and still do the thing you want to do. And it's like, yes, that's true, but most people don't. And if you think about it also, if you go through that process, you have to consistently and constantly override that subconscious belief that I'm not worthy. And so, yes, you can do what he's saying. You can say, I'm, you could acknowledge it and then still choose to do something else. But wouldn't it just be so much nicer, Alex, if you just felt worthy to begin with? You wouldn't have to play all these mental gymnastics to get work done. You just do it because that's internally who you are. You're not trying to override some other beliefs you already have. I think that's the way to go. And it's because Alex may just have a ton of willpower. I think Alex just, I've observed him a lot. I think he just has so much willpower. It's incredible. But I don't think that the effort he goes into, and he'll go into some of his other, mental gymnastics he does. And let me define what I mean by mental gymnastics. What I mean is, when you have a subconscious program that tilts your behavior to doing one thing, and you ultimately know you should be doing something else, you have to use conscious energy to override what your subconscious naturally wants to pull you towards. But wouldn't it be nicer if your subconscious beliefs just tilted you? I don't remember it doesn't. I was going to try and use my hands in the right direction. What if it just tilted you in the direction that you wanted to go naturally? Then you don't have to do this kind of, I'm not a good person, but I can, all this kind of logistical kind of trying to make it happen. You don't need to do any of that. If it's just you, if it's just the way you are naturally, you don't have to do any of those gymnastics. So I think what also could be going on here is, the belief that I'm not worthy is being overridden enough by, it's just not strong enough to tilt his behavior in some direction. Because ultimately, if he really thought he wasn't worthy at all, like 100% wasn't worthy, then he would never do anything. I think that these subconscious programs have different varying intensities and to the degree to which they affect our behavior. Some are much easier to override because they create less pain. Others are much more difficult. They create much more pain and they require much more focus. Now, for myself, I have tried to identify all of the maladaptive subconscious programs within my head, and I've, used hypnosis to clear out, no matter how small, I want them all. I want my mind as healthy as possible, and I've made great strides to do that. And anyone can. But, and that's another interesting point, is like, I don't think Alex has any motivation to change because what he's doing works. He found a system. He found something that works for him. This works for him, obviously. But there is a better way. I'm going to replay this in case because this was so dense. I'm going to replay this bit. Oh, wrong button. Okay, do this and boom.
Attitude around like if you think you deserve it, then you don't enjoy it. But that has been super powerful for me, which is like, what if they're right? And because a lot of people are just trying.
Okay, I'm gonna go backwards a little bit.
I hate the word deserve to begin with, right?
Yes.
It's like still just do the stuff that gets it. Actually felt the thought process was like calm. One of the things that gave me a lot of respite, like some people are like, yeah, I just had that, right? And I didn't think I was a really good person. Like I was like, I'm not a good person.
Yeah,
like some people are like, yeah, I just had that, right? And I had a history, whatever. And one of the things that gave me a lot of respite or relief from that kind of thought process was like, that's okay, because I can still do the things that create success and not deserve it and still get it. And that actually felt very powerful for me because it was like, I don't have to deserve the success. I can still just do the stuff that gets it. It's like, you don't have to deserve the.
Yeah, you don't have to deserve it. You can still just do the things, but isn't it a lot easier to do the things when you actually feel like you deserve the things that you're doing? I mean, he's right. At the end of the day, doing the things that lead to success are going to make you successful regardless of how you feel. Your outputs into the world Nobody knows what your mental state was, when you put outputs into the world. Maybe if you're an artist or, I don't know, a singer or something. But even then you can fake it. But again, even faking it, you're still doing this thing of overriding your beliefs. And, that's this feeling. Oh, I'm going to keep going here.
Girl, but you can still do the things that get her. And do you?
Yeah, but again, it's like you can feel like you don't deserve the girl, but still do the things that get her. I have worked with so many clients that this is like, this is, what pickup artists, the issue that they would have is that they would learn like the techniques on how to they would learn the mechanics of just the raw skill of how to get a girl, but they wouldn't actually feel like they deserved it. And so they would, it's like children with dynamite, not knowing, once you actually have it, what do you do with it? Because you don't feel like you deserve it yourself. And so he's like, yes, I think this is what most people do, is they don't feel like they deserve it, but they try anyway. Which is, you got to work with what you got at the end of the day, but wouldn't it be nicer if you just did feel like you deserved it,
Do you deserve it when you have her? I don't know. Who knows? I hate the word deserve to begin with, right?
Yes.
But like that.
I hate the word deserve to begin with. Boy, again, I've been listening closely. You can just tell his mindset. It's like, I hate the word deserved to begin with. Does that give you an indication of where his mindset might be at? Like, I hate the word deserve to begin with. Boy, oh boy. That's fascinating. And it shows where his mental mindset is. If he's uncomfortable with the word deserved, what do you think is going on in his subconscious mind if he's uncomfortable with even using the word itself? That's, clearly, but this is why he's talking about this, right? He has learned these mental cognitive abilities to get past this feeling like he doesn't deserve things. That's why he hates the word deserved, is because it triggers something in him, like, I don't deserve it. And he has all of these cognitive techniques in order to get over that feeling. Get over that subconscious feeling. But all Alex would need is one hypnosis session with me, and he wouldn't have to play all these mental gymnastics anymore. So if you're listening to this, and you might be relating to what Alex is saying, I feel like I don't deserve it. And I feel like maybe I am forcing myself to do things, and I don't feel like I deserve them. Come work with me. We can fix that. All right, let's keep going. It's good stuff, good stuff.
That concept, because also I could segue into like gratitude around, like, if you think you deserve it, then you don't enjoy it. But that is
okay. If you think you deserve it, wait, I'm gonna go back. That's interesting.
I could segue into like gratitude around, like, if you think you deserve it, then you don't enjoy it. But
if you think you deserve it, then you don't enjoy it. Again, if you think you deserve it, I think, this is why you got to listen. Like, I listen closely to how people talk about themselves. Again, I don't like the word deserved. If you feel like you deserve it, you don't enjoy it. I think what he's saying is he's talking about himself there, which is fascinating. If you think, man, let me say that again. If you think you deserve it, you don't enjoy it. Which that, what do I want to say about that? If you think you deserve it, you don't enjoy it. Well, first of all, that's sad. I enjoy plenty of things that I think I deserve. But I think that there's a bit of a paradox there. I think what he's describing is so. Well, let's first analyze the opposite of that. So the opposite of that is if you don't think you deserve it, then you're allowed to enjoy it. So, for example, if you're given something that, well, it's interesting. That's fascinating. I think, yeah, if you think you deserve it, you don't enjoy it. That I'm really trying to work that one out because I've never heard anyone with I've never heard that phrase before. I think what he means is what he's meaning to say is you can only enjoy things that, like he in turn, like if you have worked hard towards a goal or something like that, and you should deserve, but you internally don't feel like you're good enough. So you've earned a goal, you've earned some external thing, right? You've earned some goal, but you've climbed that mountain. You've whatever that mountain is, in his world it's probably business, and you've gotten to the top or whatever. Theoretically, you should enjoy it because you deserve it, right? Because you did all the steps to get there. And if you do all the steps, logically that should mean, right, that you deserve it and you should feel. So you've done all the steps and you've achieved goal, and then the next thing is you should feel good, right? But you don't feel good. Even though and remember, in order to deserve it, you have to go through A plus B plus C to get here. And now you deserve it, but you don't feel good. And the reason you don't feel good is because you have a subconscious program in your head that's saying, I'm not good enough. So externally, your external accomplishments would lead you to believe that you're good enough. Or would lead you to believe that you should feel good about yourself because you deserved it, because I did A, B, and C, so I deserve it, right? I deserve the thing I did, and therefore, I'm allowed to feel good about myself. But, but he doesn't. And the reason he doesn't is because internally, his subconscious mind doesn't feel like it's worthy. So he shortens it to, if you feel like you deserve it, you don't feel good. And I don't think that's exactly what he means. I think he means that if you do all the external things that mean you should deserve it, but you're still not going to feel good enough because you don't feel good enough because it's not in here. I'm going to read Juan's comment here. I'll bring it up. He said, I wonder if he's feeling extremely exhausted at the end of what is probably a very productive day. Good question. Probably. Well, I know that at least I believe I've heard things that he uses some substances to keep himself going, nicotine, things like that. I think he's been public about that. But if you're having, and I suspect that's probably what he's doing. Alex probably has had. I would love to meet him. I'd love to get it because all of these are podcasts, right? They're polished. They're well produced. The best parts are cut, and so but I have insights into his psyche, and so you can look at how he talks about himself through these kinds of videos, and you can also look at his success, and so clearly he is successful. But I'm curious, but it's very evident. I mean, this isn't an old video or anything. I don't know how old this is, but it must be exhausting. And if you're exhausted, and what do you do when you're exhausted but you need to keep going? Typically, you use substances. nicotine or, Zyn, whatever the popular thing is now. But, that I think that Alex also, what he's talked about in previous interviews is, he had this quote where it was like, I either die to my father or I die to myself. It was like, you either do the things that you want to do or that your father wants or his father wants. And so I think that the pain of him not doing what he wants for himself is worse than him not getting the approval of others. So I suspect that, that's that, at least at the beginning, pushed him to be successful initially. And it's also like exhausted. Like, is he mentally, is he mentally kind of burnt out from, or is he, frustrated? I would be fascinated. I can only speculate, if he is exhausted, but I think it's perfectly reasonable to make that assumption, or at least ask the question, has he figured out other ways? There's also, actually, I just thought of this. It's possible that he doesn't feel exhausted, because if you think about it, I'm going to have a drink of water here. He also, he said in other interviews that work makes him feel good about himself. So the more he works, the more external positive inputs he has to override the negative feelings he has. And so the more he works, so perhaps work doesn't drain him. Perhaps work is like an addiction. It keeps him sane to a certain extent. So he's always working. He's always moving forward. He's always accomplishing things, and just a constant, never-ending input of positive energy, because work makes him feel good. He's accomplished things. He's getting things done. He's moving. He's changing people's lives. More external. And so perhaps he's not that exhausted. Perhaps work is what he does when he feels exhausted from thinking about other things. And so I could see it both ways. I could see him not being, and I could see him being exhausted. It'd be fascinating to talk to him. So thanks for the comment. All right, we're going to keep going.
That has been super powerful for me.
Let's do this.
Which is like, what if they're right? And? Because a lot of people just they spend so much effort trying to fight the fact that enjoy it, but I could segue into like gratitude around, like, if you think you deserve it, then you don't enjoy it. But that has been super powerful for me, which is like, what if they're right? And? Because a lot of people just they spend so much effort trying to fight the fact that the comments might be right. This might have been a fucking terrible thumbnail.
Yep.
You know what? Let's
keep going.
Might have been a boring video. This post might have been regurgitated content. This post might have been inspired too closely by someone else's post, right? What if they're right? And does it make me a piece of shit? What if it does? And I hear stats like that, and I just think, man, it is so easy to.
So I'm gonna back up a little bit.
And because a lot of people just they spend so much effort trying to fight the fact that the comments might be right.
They spend so much effort trying to fight the fact that the comments might be right. Right. So what is that effort? Are you noticing? Part of the goal of my channel is to get all my viewers to recognize I should coin a phrase like subconscious speak or something like that. We'll workshop that term. If to recognize language people use that describe what's going on inside them. So, again, this so much effort. What was the phrase?
They spend so much effort trying to fight the fact that the comments might be right.
So much effort trying to fight the fact that the comments might be right. And really what he's describing there is the subconscious mind. The effort is the feeling they get. So if somebody gets, if they get a comment on their channel, comment on their video, comment that they did, something they did, and it triggers them. makes them feel bad. What he's describing is this process of so much effort. Translation, so that's the cognitive piece. Translation, something somebody said triggered a maladaptive subconscious program in my mind that basically that now I feel like my own insecurities are being triggered by this person's comment. My insecurities are being brought up by this. And I agree with them that because he's going to say, so his method of dealing with that process of getting triggered and then either fighting it is just say, yes, and the way I look at it instead is, well, how about you just say, how about you didn't get triggered to begin with? How about you didn't have this belief like, I'm not good enough. If comments on your video or anything else are triggering you, maybe there's a reason why. Maybe you're not as maybe there's a negative subconscious program that's being triggered through that. So, his solution, again, is a conscious one. This is what I can consciously do to override it. My solution is the problem doesn't happen to begin with. We go to the root cause of the problem, which is the subconscious mind, and we remove it using hypnosis. So, I'm going to look at Juan's comment there. Go back to solo. He says, what's a good way to identify what's in your excuse me, grab some more water. The water was smart. Talking a lot. Okay, what's a good way to identify what in your subconscious is blocking you from what you want to do? Okay, what's a good what in your subconscious is blocking? Interesting question. Well, I think you kind of answered your own question in a way, and so I'll explain. So, identify what in your subconscious block. It's like, so I'll assume I think we mean like trying to identify what the program is that's blocking you. But like, if you notice that something's blocking you, then you've already identified it. So you kind of like, it's a bit of like paradoxical. It's like, how do I identify something that's blocking me in my subconscious? Well, it's like, yes, but if you've already identified that something is blocking you, then that is the subconscious program. So and then perhaps I'm misinterpreting the way you phrased it. So I think maybe what you're asking more is like, how do I know if there's a subconscious program that's blocking me to begin with? It's typically a feeling. And so you just have to learn to get better at sensing your own body. Typically, when I feel, when I was typically, if I were to, interview you, or not interview you, but if we were to talk one-on-one and we were, going to talk about a session, the first thing I would ask is, okay, what do you feel? Then how do you feel it in your body, physically? How do you feel it in your body? And then how would you rather feel? And so, basically, the subconscious programs that we clear, the guide to them is basically, when do you get, these are the kinds of questions I would ask clients. It's like, okay, when do you get triggered? When do you not get triggered? What is what circumstances cause you to get triggered more often than not? And then we'll go, we'll break down, even further. So like, for example, if someone was having trouble, I don't know, if they're a salesman or something like that, and they're having trouble closing sales, I might ask them, okay, well, do you have trouble, do you have trouble making the calls? Do you have, I'll ask them about the whole sales process. Okay, do you have trouble just finding clients to sell to? No, I can do that. Okay, so then we move to, okay, do you have trouble just calling them? No, I can call them. Do you have trouble, talking to them on the phone? No, I can do that. Okay, but do you have trouble closing them specifically? Yeah, okay. Then it's like, okay, I'm having trouble with sales, but it's like, what is the specific thing that triggers you? So what about closing the sale specifically? Because you were able to find them just fine. You were able to call them just fine. You were able to give them a sales pitch, but in order to closing is the thing. So Juan, basically, you want to get really specific with what are the circumstances around that are triggering you. What about, again, my favorite question I like to use when I'm troubleshooting in the middle of a hypnosis session is, what are these feelings about? Why do I feel this way? Why didn't I? And you have to be, and like right when the feeling comes up is the best time to trigger it. So it's like right before I wasn't feeling it, what just happened that made me feel this way? Notice it as soon as it comes up. Notice it, and then write it down. And also write down, notice what you feel and where you feel in your body. That part is critical. Because in hypnosis, to connect to the feeling, it's much, in order to let that subconscious feeling go, you have to be able to connect to the feeling. And to connect to it, you have to feel it. And there's a reason we use that word feel, is because a feeling is physical. And so, where was I going with this? So again, basically the best ways to identify these things are, right when you get triggered. And so, some people, they feel crummy all the time. Okay, if you feel crummy all the time, then perhaps you don't need to wait to get triggered. Maybe you just be like, wow, I really don't want to do X, Y, Z right now. I feel like I'm always procrastinating. I feel like I'm always avoiding doing this thing. What? So that's my best advice. If you want to ask a follow-up question in the chat, I hope that answered your question. Feel free to follow up in the chat. All right, we'll keep going on the Alex Hormozi video here.
Hey, this might have been a fucking terrible thumbnail.
Yep.
You know what? This might have been a boring video. This post might have been regurgitated content. This post might have been inspired too closely by someone else's post, right? What if they're right? And does it make me a piece of shit? What if it does? And
I hear stats like that and I just think, man, it is so easy to win. Like that. I mean, like when I hear,
I just don't like that. It's like, it makes me a piece of shit. It goes back to that kind of like, but people don't like to, people don't like to feel like they're a piece of shit. Nobody likes that. Like, he's trying to separate the feeling and the judgment you have about the feeling. And it's not, you can do that consciously, but you still have to deal with that feeling. And so what if you just didn't feel that to begin with? I think that's easier. Rather than, if you don't have the tools of hypnosis, which if you're watching this, now you do. Welcome to the, I need a term, hypnosis gang? I don't know. We'll have to workshop that name too. But, if you don't have to do this. You don't have to use these cognitive tools if you have hypnosis, because the cognitive tools will never be needed. You don't need to, you don't need to keep, what's the term? Like something like bailing something out if you just steal. I don't know. It's the root cause. Deal with the root cause. You don't need to deal with all these Band-Aids. Anyway, keep going.
hear that. That's exactly what I think. I'm just like, man, for everyone who's like struggling to win, it's like most of the pain that people experience is purely in their own minds. And so to your point, I think there's an interesting one between like burnout versus hard. And so like For me, burnout is when I would define it as my output per unit of time.
Okay. We're going to move forward a little bit. He starts talking about, let's see, 13. Move to 2546. Started here. Okay.
Something that I call the rule of 100. 100 depicting, or in reality isn't even there, but it's constantly present. It's like the criticizes everything, and so for whatever reason they have this second voice that criticizes. You'll be making six figures if you do that. And so
okay, so this is actually, I'm realizing now this video. So this video actually, this compilation video that this person did, at the beginning they cut up little sound bites of each of the clips and put them like for 5 seconds or so. And this is the full context of not being validated. So I'm going to go backwards a little bit.
and you do that for 100 days, and I promise you you'll be making six figures if you do that. And so people are afraid of not getting validated, or they're afraid of judgment that they perceive from other people that exist or don't exist in their lives.
Okay, he talks really fast, so we're going to break this down like step by step here. So, okay. So,
not getting validated.
So he's talking about content creation specifically. So people are afraid of not getting validated.
Or they're afraid of judgment that they perceive from.
Or they're afraid of judgment. So they're afraid of not getting validated or being judged, which are kind of similar.
Other people that exist or don't.
That exist or don't exist. That part's actually pretty important.
Exist in their lives. And so for whatever reason.
Okay, so, excuse me. So, okay, let's just go back and forth. Let's go back to solo here. So, that's interesting. They're afraid of the not getting validated or being judged from what was the thing? It was so good. Hang on. Go back a little bit. I don't want to butcher this.
Six figures if you do that. And so people are afraid of not getting validated, or they're afraid of judgment that they perceive from other people that exist.
They're afraid of the judgment from people that exist or don't exist. Again, I need to coin this phrase. I think I can do it. It's called subconscious speak. They're afraid of judgment of people that do or don't exist. Key phrase there, don't exist. If you're afraid of that coming in, it's probably because there's a subconscious program that's pushing on your emotions. It's going, we don't want to get judged. We don't want to feel bad about ourselves. Because there are going to be people who criticize. But worrying about, he said that so fast that I think I want to slow it down, because like that's really important. Like that people that do or don't exist, i.e., my subconscious programs are pushing me. They are making me feel like I'm not good enough. I'm worried about judgment. I'm worried my subconscious programs are saying I'm not good enough for other people. And if I put out this piece of content and they don't like it, and they criticize me, I'll feel it will confirm the belief I already have about myself, which will make me not feel great. Nobody likes to feel not great. So, it's the threat, and that's what he's referring to. It's the threat that someone else might. It's the threat of it possibly happening. Not that it even is happening. I mean, when it does happen, and it probably will for all content, but that's kind of the point. It's like it doesn't matter if you fix your subconscious mind. Then this doesn't come up. This need to be validated from people that do or don't exist. I fear that I'm not going to be validated in the future. This hasn't even happened yet. And I'm placing taking actions based on a subconscious fear that things are going to happen in the future. So that part about do or do not exist, translation, subconscious mind. Call it subconscious speak. Subconscious, I don't know, is that really a... I don't know if I like that. It doesn't really roll off the tongue enough. I'll have to workshop that one.
Or don't exist in their lives.
All right, we're going to... All right. And presto.
And so for whatever reason, they have this second voice that criticizes everything they do that in reality isn't even there, but is constantly present. It's like the antithesis of whatever the God figure is, but just the negative voice. And so I think that's the thing that stops most people from doing the stuff they know they need to do. Because if you think about like whether it's want to get in shape.
Again, the negative voice. Okay, it's so good. I need to go backwards a little bit.
And so for whatever reason, they have this second voice that criticizes.
Second voice, translation. Subconscious mind. Is this actually, I think actually it's mirrored. So I should go like this. Subconscious mind. Second voice. So if you're listening to this and you hear somebody else saying they have this voice inside, or say this voice inside your head, that voice is your subconscious mind. At least in this context. If you're actually hearing voices, not a doctor. Read the disclaimer, but that's what he's referring to.
This is everything they do that.
Okay, I'm going to go backwards a little bit.
For whatever reason, they have this second voice that criticizes everything they do that in reality isn't even there, but is constantly present. It's like the antithesis of whatever the God figure is, but just the negative voice. And so I think that's the thing that...
the antithesis of whatever the God figure is. That's that's interesting. One sec, I'm gonna do something real quick here. Here, I'm gonna let him keep talking. I'm gonna restart this and let him keep talking while I do something here.
One channel, one media source, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, Twitter, consistently start going on that, whether that's cold outbound, whether that's content, whether it's running paid ads, whether it's affiliates, word of mouth, whatever it is, and start reaching out to people there to start selling your stuff. And so I use something that I call the Rule 100, which is 100 primary actions, whether that's 100 minutes of content creation per day.
One sec. Fixing something here. Anyway, back to the video here. So,
100 reach outs per day, $100 of ads.
All right, how far were we here?
Want to work out, to get in shape or to lose weight, whatever. They know they need to eat fewer donuts and move more in general, but they don't, right? Because they're afraid of getting started, or they don't have the discipline.
Yeah, I mean, they're afraid of getting started, or they don't have the discipline. Afraid. Translation. You're noticing a pattern here? They're afraid of getting started. Translation. Subconscious speak. Not sure if I'm going to use that term. They're afraid if they try, and if they fail, they're going to feel like a failure, and it's going to confirm the belief they have about themselves. It's not discipline. It's a fear of failure. It's a fear of feeling like you're not good enough. It's the most painful feeling we can feel. And so, it's not, they people will self-sabotage if they're, he's giving the example of the gym, I'll eat the donut. I feel like I'm not worthy of it anyway. I'm not worthy to get in shape anyway, so I'll just, I'll do those things. We avoid pain and move towards pleasure. And if it's painful for us to go through the process of, the process of, working out, well, because that's really what you're afraid of. If you work out and you don't see results, you're going to feel like a failure. You're going to wonder why you ever started. You're just going to go back, and it's, that's why people procrastinate on that. All right.
Plan to keep going, which is they can't make the short-term sacrifice for the long-term achievement. So
they can't make the short-term it's just, again, he's so cognitive with this. You cannot make the short-term sacrifice for the long-term. It's like, yeah, they can't, because the short-term sacrifice is pain. And actually, it's not even a short-term sacrifice. It's fear of a future. It's fear of future pain, is really what it is. So, why would they make the short-term sacrifice if it's just going to lead to pain? They're not going to induce some temporary discomfort now to just be rewarded with more discomfort later. Doesn't make any sense. Nobody would do that. So, and that more discomfort later is really more pain later. Short-term discomfort is going to result, because the equation in their heads running through their subconscious is short-term pain leading to, or short-term discomfort leading to long-term pain, like future pain. It's like it's not a worthy, it's not a fair trade.
big picture, it's like there's usually some fear that's preventing from doing it, and then how it looks from a behavioral standpoint.
Some fear. Again, I'm going slowly because he talks fast. Usually some fear. Translation, subconscious program.
The point is they do not make the short-term sacrifice of discomfort for the long-term achievement, independent of whatever path they're talking about.
So every time you watch or you consume a piece of content, you read a book.
Okay. So I'm going to move ahead a little further. 27:24.
I'll bring it around. So I was at an event and a young lady said, "Alex, can you just give me 60 seconds of motivation?" And of course it's like, dance monkey dance. And so I took a deep breath and I was like, define motivation. And she just like melted. She had no idea, right? I was like, so you want me to answer a question or make a statement about something that you can't even define. And so how would you have any idea of whether or not I actually did it? And so then I probably gave her the answer she really wanted, which was, let me define motivation for you. So motivation is the equal opposite of deprivation. So we are most motivated when we are deprived of something. I'm most motivated to sleep when I'm sleep deprived. I'm most motivated to eat when I'm deprived of food. I'm most motivated to have sex when I haven't had sex in a while. Now, that logic carries for physiological needs. But then when you get into psychological things or intangible constructs, so like let's think about money. By that same logic, you'd think, oh, poor people should be more motivated because they're deprived of money. But that we don't see that in reality. Many poor people are not that motivated. So it would then follow, and I've seen some incredibly rich people who are wildly hungry for money. And so then it would follow that the deprivation comes from our reference point because money is intangible. And so it's how much do we perceive our deprivation around money? And so if all of my friends are billionaires and I'm worth $100 million, then I have a 900.
Okay, so this gets into like deprivation and motivation. And so I find he's like, okay, deprivation is the equal opposite of, or motivation is the equal and opposite of deprivation, which is interesting. But then he says, poor people should be the most deprived. But I find that, well, let's just keep going.
$100 million deficit that I have to come up. I'm $900 million poorer than the person who just is at $5,000 a month who wants to make $10,000 a month. I'm more motivated to make money than they are because I'm more deprived of it. And so in thinking about this, I then think, okay, what am I deprived of? That motivates me to go get it. And also, when I want to try and judge the behavior of others or predict their behavior, I have to think, what things are they deprived of? Because I'll have a much stronger predictive power than trying to say, how do I motivate this person? Look at what they lack.
It's a much more accurate way to.
I find that look at what they lack and it will show you what motivates them. So this goes back to the theme I've been talking about sort of all of the show is like he is using these cognitive tools to figure out, like, he's so close. He's figured out that people that feel this deprivation of something are motivated to get out of it. He felt deprived, like he wasn't good enough, so he has to fill all of his time with work to try and fill that void of not being good enough. It's like because he's deprived. Again, subconscious speak for negative subconscious program. If you feel this deprivation, which is really, you could give the example of, you can't bring a horse to water. You can bring a horse to water, can't make him drink, but you can make him thirsty, But what if you just drank because you wanted to drink? You don't feel deprived. I mean, because it's sort of, well, actually, that's a poor example. It's basically, think about this one. If you're doing something because out of a fear of lack, you don't have enough of something, that void's never going to be filled. So, yes, you can use that as motivation, but that's also dirty fuel. You wouldn't put, dirty, if you went to a mechanic and you asked him, you say, hey, and he put, I need an oil change. And he takes your oil out and puts the oil in from the last oil change. You'd be like, what are you doing? I don't want dirty oil in my car. And of course you don't want dirty oil in your car because it's less efficient. So you want clean oil. But Alex seems to run off of dirty oil because he's like, well, it's motivating, right? That dirty, that lack of something, the deprivation fuels you to go farther, right? But that's not, that deprivation fuels you to go farther. It's not, but it doesn't work. You're less efficient. You're strategic. You're so much less efficient when you are fueled by deprivation than you are from just when you allow your subconscious beliefs to tilt your behavior towards the thing you want. That's more powerful than deprivation, because deprivation is really your subconscious beliefs being tilted against the thing you want. It's so much more effective to just have them being tilted towards the thing you want. Anyway, took me a while to figure that out, but
predict the things that people are going to chase after.
It's operationalized. What do they do?
So I found this quote from Timothy.
Okay. We're going to wrap up here soon, but there's one more piece of this I think is worth covering. 49.50.
with your goal. You may feel angry, but know that retaliating at your coworker has no likely positive outcome. You may hate your boss, but undermining them in front of the team may make you feel good in the moment, but again, destroy your long-term career prospects. And so I think creating a gap. And so I was talking to one of our CEOs who was having a little bit of stress issue, and I said, I want you to think that you're a Yeti can. I want you to think you're one of these cans that has a vacuum between both walls. I was like, you got your feelings on one side, you've got your internal temperature, and you've got your external temperature. And I was like, I just want you to do this. Just create space, and space within the context of behavior is time, which is when I feel something and I have the desire to act on it, you can, at that moment, you have the lowest action threshold, which means that you're the highest likelihood of behaving or doing something is when you have this feeling. And so I want to make as logical of decisions as I possibly can. Hopefully we're all aligned on the fact that logical decisions in general work out better than illogical decisions. And so if we make logical decisions on a regular basis, then we'll have longer term outcomes. If we want to increase the likelihood that our decisions in general are logical, then we want to create space between when we feel and when we do. And encapsulated in one sentence, it's just because you feel something doesn't mean you need to act on it. And if you have an idea.
Yes, but wouldn't it be so much easier? Wouldn't life be so much easier if you just didn't feel that thing to begin with? What he just described is, again, using a conscious tool to override, using a conscious tool to override your natural response, which is sometimes helpful. It's not all, it's very often that, unexpected stimuli always come up. But if you keep having to use this conscious tool all the time when you get frustrated with coworkers or you're reading negative comments online or something that's a lot of energy constantly to use. And you might even get really efficient at doing that. But you know what's more efficient than doing that? Not doing it at all. So he talks about that's the Pepsi can, right? Create space between the thing that triggers you and your response. And I think that's generally a good practice. I'm not knocking that as a general practice. I think it's healthy. But I would just argue that you should minimize how often you do that. Minimize the need to do that. So you can put your energy and effort elsewhere. Because then you have to... I think of it like a health bar. And we each get a certain amount of energy and discipline and motivation throughout the day. And it's all in one health bar. And every time you have to do this thing with the Pepsi can where you go, you're kind of going where you have to choose, okay, he did this. Now I'm going to do, now I need to choose to react this way. That takes energy out of your energy bar. It's not efficient. Especially when there's a better way. So, what is that better way? Well, the better way is you use hypnosis and... Hey, Ryan, how's it going? As Ryan Fowler, we do a show every Saturday, Inner Game Group. How's it going, Ryan? But anyway, so yes, the better way, rather than trying to do this thing with the Pepsi can, the Pepsi can analogy of space between what you feel, and you don't need to do any of that. The better option is identify what your subconscious beliefs are and remove them using hypnosis. And that's what I exist for. And so if you're interested in that, my links are in the description. I think I'm about to wrap up the show. But thank you, everyone, for commenting on my first live stream. I don't have a schedule for these just yet. I'm going to rewatch this one, see how this goes, see what I want to change and edit. If you want to leave some comments, let me know what you thought, any suggestions for the show, or any topic ideas for the show too. I do a lot of research on trying to find ideas and good things to talk about. So if anyone has suggestions, I'm more than happy to talk that they want me to cover. Let me know. I think that's all I got for now. So